Day 1, 3:12 p.m. The first thing Fadi Daoud felt was pain. Not dull, not vague, sharp, consuming pain that tore through his abdomen like a serrated blade. He gasped, breath catching in his throat as sterile fluorescent lights flickered above him in the recovery room. The antiseptic tang of the hospital surrounded him, but beneath it, he caught a sharper scent. Blood. His own. Something was wrong. He tried to sit up, only to be forced down by a bolt of agony. A nurse appeared almost instantly, placing a firm hand on his shoulder. "Mr. Daoud, please don't move," she said gently. "You've just come out of surgery." Surgery. Right. He remembered signing the consent forms that morning. A routine intestinal resection, complex but straightforward, and performed by Dr. Henry Whitmore, no less. Whitmore. The name alone carried mythic weight in Washington, D.C. He was a surgeon's surgeon, the man other doctors called in for their Hail Marys. "Dr. Whitmore," Fati rasped, his throat dry. "Did he?" The nurse's lips pressed into a thin line. "Dr. Whitmore oversaw your case," she replied too quickly. Fati caught the hesitation. Her voice was calm, but her eyes flickered. Just for a second. Unease. Something was definitely wrong. Day 3, 9:47 a.m. Recovery was not going as expected. The pain lingered, deeper and sharper than it should have been, and his abdomen was swelling in odd patterns. Fadi had read enough surgical journals and first-hand accounts during his investigative years to know this wasn't normal. When Dr. Kuhn entered on his morning rounds, Fadi sat up straighter, teeth clenched against the pain. "Doctor," he said, "I need a straight answer. I was told Dr. Whitmore would be performing my surgery. I haven't seen him once." Dr. Kuhn's expression didn't change, but his shoulders stiffened. "Dr. Whitmore is very busy." "That's not an answer." Dr. Kuhn exhaled slowly, choosing his words like landmines. "He wasn't in the operating room." "What?" Fadi's voice rose. "Dr. Whitmore didn't perform your surgery," Kuhn admitted. Fadi stared at him. "Then who did?" Day 6, 5:23 p.m. The hospital insisted it was a clerical error, a miscommunication. Whitmore had signed off on the case, they said, but delegated the actual procedure to a qualified surgeon. Fadi wasn't buying it. He checked himself out of the hospital against medical advice. Once home, he called the one person who could dig deeper than he could right now. Sarah Langley, a former forensic auditor turned private investigator. 3 days later, her voice came through the phone like thunder. "Fadi," she said, "we have a problem." Fadi sat up, ignoring the twinge in his side. "Tell me." "There's no record of Whitmore entering the hospital the day of your surgery. None. Not a parking log, not a badge swipe, not even a security camera ping." "Then where was he?" "Don't know," she said. "But it gets weirder. There's no attending surgeon listed for your operation, just a series of scrub nurses and anesthesiologists, and all their statements have been sealed." Fati's pulse quickened. He'd been cut open by a ghost. Day 11, 7:39 p.m. It started with whispers, anonymous tips, an intern who left abruptly, a scrub nurse who refused to speak unless off the record. Then came the night at a dingy diner just outside Arlington. Fadi met with Nurse Camille Hayes, who had been on shift during his surgery. "I shouldn't be doing this," she whispered, stirring her coffee without drinking it. "But you deserve to know. Whitmore hasn't held a scalpel in over 2 years." Fadi blinked. "What?" "He consults, signs charts, cashes the checks, but he hasn't operated since," she paused, "since his hands started shaking. Tremor. Early onset, they think." "Why keep his name on the OR lists?" "Reputation," she said. "Donors. Patients request him by name. The hospital saves millions in malpractice premiums just by having him on record." "And who's actually performing the surgeries?" She glanced around. "They call him the ghost, no ID, no license. He's not in the system." "Then how the hell is he allowed near a patient?" "Because no one stops him. He's protected." "And the truth?" "Whitmore brought him in." Day 14, 11:04 a.m. Sarah dug deeper. The ghost was real. Whispers in dark web forums told stories of a man who stitched flesh like a machine, but had no medical license. Some said he was a fallen genius, a surgical prodigy expelled from Johns Hopkins after a fatal operating error. Others claimed he'd been Whitmore's protégé, blackballed for pushing ethical boundaries too far. A few even swore he was a ghost in the digital sense. No birth certificate, no social security number, a surgical hacker who sold his skills to the highest bidder. Whatever he was, he'd been cutting patients under false names across multiple hospitals for years. Whitmore had brought him in quietly after his tremors worsened. The hospital board looked the other way. With the ghost operating, their outcomes stayed clean, and Whitmore's reputation remained untarnished. Patients lived, until they didn't. Day 16, 9:12 p.m. Fati sat in his apartment, staring at the flash drive Sarah had given him. It contained enough evidence to shatter the hospital, ruin careers, and indict Whitmore. But it would also destroy lives. Camille, Kuhn, Sarah herself. Not to mention the families of patients operated on by the ghost. He stared at the blinking cursor on his screen. "If I publish this, lives will be ruined," he whispered. "But if I don't, more will be lost." His fingers trembled. This wasn't just another exposé, this was personal. His body still bore the scars of what they'd done. He clicked upload. Day 17, 12:01 a.m. The story dropped like a bomb. The ghost surgeon, a DC hospital's deadly cover-up. Fati named names, included surgical logs, falsified credentials, secret financial transfers, interviews with whistleblowers. An audio recording of Whitmore's voice from an intercepted call. "I didn't have a choice. My hands, they weren't mine anymore, but he could do what I couldn't." Day 17, 7:30 a.m. Cable news picked it up. Reddit exploded. The hashtag Ghost Surgeon trended globally. By 9 a.m., the Department of Health had launched an investigation. By noon, the hospital CEO had resigned. Whitmore's medical license was suspended by evening. But Whitmore himself? Gone. Vanished. Just like on the day of Fati's surgery. 3 weeks later, 2:04 p.m. Fati met with a former hospital administrator in a remote park in Bethesda. She had reached out anonymously. "I tried to stop it once," she confessed, lighting a cigarette with shaking hands. "They threatened my family, said they'd frame me for embezzlement." She handed him another flash drive. "Everything you need. Internal memos, payout records, the board's cover-up decisions. They saved millions in malpractice premiums by blaming junior doctors. Whitmore got hush money. The ghost got, well, I don't know what he got, but he kept operating." "Where's Whitmore now?" Fati asked. She shrugged. "I heard he's in Switzerland, or maybe underground. Doesn't Fatier, he's running." 2 months later, 8:01 a.m., Fati stood outside what was once the hospital's gleaming facade. The building was shuttered, pending investigation, a padlock on the doors. Beneath the headlines, beyond the lawsuits and cable interviews, deeper questions remained. Who was the ghost? Where was Whitmore really hiding? And how many others had bled in silence before someone finally spoke up? Fati touched his side. The scar throbbed faintly in the cold. He'd exposed the truth. But he wasn't done. Because some ghosts don't vanish, they wait for the next cut.